Yo, how you guys doing? It's your boy Beastly back at it again with more CFB 26 sauce. So, if you enjoy my content, I appreciate you. Shout out to all of you guys who show up to the streams. We're absolutely killing it, whether it's the streams, whether it's the videos, the comments, the like, all the, the Discord. You guys have been absolutely blowing me up in the last couple, week or so. So I appreciate y'all. Much love. Love reading the comments of anyone who learns anything or, goes back and forth with me. Appreciate it. As long as you keep it civil, I'll keep it civil. We have a great conversation. But enough yapping out the way. Beastly, what are we doing? What are we yapping about today? And this is a special video. I've been getting so many comments. Trust me, guys, I read pretty much every comment I've ever gotten on my channel, barring YouTube just auto deleting them because you use no words. Anyways, most of my content's been for offline, for the sim people, for the dynasty people, a lot of the online crowd, the cut people, the regs, regular teams, and the online dynasty crowd. It's like, we want some content too, man. So here you go. This video is basically exclusively made for gameplay purposes, whether it's cut, regular teams, or online dynasty. Most of the stuff that will be in this video will pertain to that. So if you're a sim, part of the sim crowd or any of that, don't worry, got plenty of videos lined up. Got like 4 or 5 at the time of me recording this video, just ideas and stuff for testing purposes. So appreciate you guys. If you learned anything, you guys know the drill. Smash a like, share the video, leave a comment, and subscribe. But what are we covering today, Beastly? So, in online dynasties, a lot of people, in my opinion, waste skill points. And I know that's a very bold claim. How are you going to back it up? I got you. So, as you can see, every player, I have 2 picked for this video. I have a receiver and a corner, just to make it very easy. But there are basically animations in this game that can only be triggered with the right stat threshold. You may be asking yourself, well, how do I trigger that? Obviously, I would prefer the best man coverage animation of my corner covering the receiver and man versus the worst one. Or I would like the best hit stick animation to where I can get more, jar the ball loose, fumble, incompletions, stuff like that. Well, to the surprise of many people, the sliding scale of this game comes off as more of an RPG-esque kind of thing, where you get like +1 strength, +1, intellect, all my Elden Ring nerds, I just, yada. But that's not really how it works. And unfortunately, I'm going to pop a lot of people's bubbles for this little info you're going to be learning. When you learn this info, you can't really unsee the game, so just forewarning, viewer discretion is advised. I'm about to show you how the proverbial sausage is made, and when I do that, you're going to be like, ugh. So, as you can see, my corner has 95 man coverage. What if I were to tell you that that he has 5 man coverage that more or less is doing virtually jack shiznit on his build? You may be wondering, what? Why 90? That's kind of the sad part of this game, and Madden and pretty much every sports title EA has made in the last at least 8 years, possibly longer. I'm not going to go back and dig through the archives of the 360 days, but more or less everything in this game is based off stat thresholds, and most thresholds in this game hard cap at 90. I'm not exaggerating. So that 5 extra man coverage I have, it does technically do something, but I'm going to be hitting you guys with a lot of numbers, a lot of, gibberish. There's this fun thing called diminishing returns. And if you do, statistics and stuff like that, whether it's in high school or college, the gap between 10% of 100 is very different from 10% of 1,000. Obviously, you're still doing 10%, but because you're, fiddling with bigger numbers, you get bigger numbers in return. That's kind of how this works. From 85 to 90, you get a massive jump up in quality. But from 90 to 95, there is virtually no difference. And from, 90 to 99, there's virtually no difference. There is technically a difference by technicality. You do get marginally better reaction time from your, in this example, corners or what have you. But the largest gap is from 85 to 90. And don't just take my word for it. Here is the literal code of the game, right? Stripped straight from the game. Take this picture and burn it into your memory, because this is pretty much the Bible of pretty much every sports game EA has made, at least in the last 6 or 7 years. Could be longer. I just, again, don't want to dig through the trash to see when this exact started. But this is the code of the game. As you can see, top left corner, elite DB press minimum is 90. Elite wide receiver beat press is 90. Coverage man creation for elite rating, 90. And you got the zone thresholds. We had covered man and, that stuff up there. Zone 65, 70. What are these numbers, basically? What do these mean? These are the numbers that you need to have on your player for them to quote unquote get the animations they get. And as you can see, to get the quote unquote elite press animation, which is the animation where your DB just jams the living hell out that receiver, all you got to get is 90 press. Now, I'm going to pull up some graphs a bit later into the video, but just so you're aware, the bulk of what you need is at 90. Yeah, again, you can go over, but it's not going to help you too much. 90 is where you want it. So if you can at least get to 90, you're good. But, for the receiver, it's also 90 release. Down below with the zones, for a curl flat, to get the best curl flat reaction time and or the best curl flat animations, you need to have the 4 thresholds are 65 zone, 70 zone, 75 zone, and 80. So if you're ever curious why linebackers sometimes play zones very well and they don't have anywhere near the stats your corners or your safeties do, that is why. For specifically the curl flat or the curl and the flat, you don't need to have 90 zone or 95 zone. You need to have 80. The caps there are 80. And I believe the devs do that. That way linebackers and defensive ends can also play zone coverage, because it'd be kind of crappy if you made the linebackers have the same scaling thresholds for like corners and safeties. It's far easier to upgrade your zone coverage in a safety or a corner than like a thumper, just as an example. But as you can see for the deeper zones, for the deep zones and the hook zones, those scale up to 90, which makes sense because most corners and safeties will play the hooks, will play the deep zones, hence why those numbers would be bigger. So you could technically go over, again, 80 zone on the curls and the flats, but the final animation threshold's at 80. So, if you're trying to be, bang for your buck, you wouldn't go over. You would go to 80 and then move on, which is the reason why I'm bringing this, for online Dynasty. You don't need to waste 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 tokens on a linebacker zone, for example. If you know your linebacker is never going to play anything but curls and flats, you don't need to have the linebacker higher than 80 zone. Now, just because I play weird defense, I do a lot of adjustments, I will always have my linebackers at 90 just for the off chance I put my linebacker in a deep zone or a hook. But that's just personal preference. If you know you don't do that, there is 0 point in wasting those points going above 80. There is really no point. And there's a bunch of other stats. We will cover most of these stats throughout the video. But just so as you can see, this is the actual code of the game. So if you're wondering why your player is or isn't doing something on or off the field, there's a good chance you don't have the stats, you don't have the height, you don't have the weight to do what you think you're doing. There you go. So this corner I have on your screen, I would say would be the perfect corner. And as you can see, I still have 40 upgrade tokens in the top right corner. So if you want to know how this build works, go check out my series on my channel. Actually, shamelessly plug to it right now. If you would like to know how I have all these tokens, how I'm doing what I'm doing, whether it's in the live streams and the videos, I have a whole series dedicated to this on my channel. It's titled How to Dynasty for 2026. I have a video breaking down my coach build, a video showing you how I recruit to get 5 to 15 elite recruits prospects every single cycle. I show you my sim playbooks and the other coaching adjustments you can do when you're building your coach with pipeline stuff. And lastly, I showed you how to upgrade players properly. Shout out my priming gamers. Anywho, if you have any questions, one of these 4 videos will probably go ahead and answer those questions. If not, leave them down below. I will be more than happy to answer you. And yeah, back to the video. So this corner right here, I would say I have almost perfectly made for an online head-to-head league. And here's why. So as you can see, he has 95 man coverage. I wasn't upgrading his man for the man coverage, as you could probably guess. I wanted him to have the elite threshold of press. So I stopped at when I got over 90, which for him was 92. That point, I already upgraded my man, so man done. Press check. Those 2 done. I would like him to have 90 awareness, but I'm not going to go, I have 40 points to wiggle with, so I might go back and upgrade this, but for now, I'm perfectly fine forfeiting awareness. I have change of direction capped. I have press good, man good. Next, move on to zone, and as you can see, I got 90 zone. So he has the elite threshold for all zones, man and press. Great change of direction, and good play rec too. Now, we're going to just... I feel like I don't really have to waste time in the video, but might as well yap. Corner, 99 everything. Corner, go fast. Corner, cover fast receivers. Therefore, corner must be fast. There you go. Done. Next, power. Now, you might be wondering, Beastly, why did you upgrade your corner's power as much as you did? Well, if you remember the chart had segments for hit power. And if you're curious, the minimum hit power threshold required to land a hit stick that's applicable to cause a fumble, the bare min for that's 75. So as you can see with my corner, I have 77. Which means, yes, my corner can technically hit stick people now and cause fumbles. Which, that might not seem very relevant, but that's the difference between your cornerback, hit sticking someone in game and then just bouncing off them, like a pinball. There you go, that's how it works. The cap for hit power is 90 though. So I knew I wasn't going to get anywhere near 90. But all you need to have is the worst threshold, or at least the minimum threshold, which is 75. I hit 77, so good. The jumping, injury, strength, that's kind of all irrelevant to me, but I can actually hit stick people. And we'll get later into the video that even if you don't have the most hit power, depending on what position you play, you can still cause fumbles, especially when I go into height and weight and stuff and how that factors into the game as well. So my corner, to recap, peak man, peak press, peak change of direction, peak zone, and can land the bare minimum hit stick requirements. Okay, that's good. What about run support? And as you can see, 91 tackle, which I believe the threshold for tackle is equal to the opponent's break tackle. So 91 tackle where's the chart? Let me actually double check this real quick. I am actually wrong. Actually, I'm very wrong. So by my corner having 91 tackling, he now can infinitely strip without getting penalized for spamming the strip button. This also leads to my corner having an increased chance to stripping the ball loose. There you go. Learn something new every day. That's why you look at the chart. Anywho, my corner, for all intents and purposes, has everything he needs on my field, minus catching. I'm not going to, you can upgrade this. I have, again, 40 tokens of wiggle room, so whatever I feel like I have to do, I can do. But let's go into abilities. So basically, my corner already has the zone, the man, the stuff. What about abilities? Abilities more or less stack with the thresholds. So in a perfect world, you would want to have at least 90 plus for all the stuff you need and the purple abilities, which for him, I do. Now, I could technically keep going and increase ball hawk and increase knockout and have him be a fiend in zone or man and pretty much be all over the place. But again, as an example, I can still make him better. I'm choosing not to, right? He's already an insane 99 overall god, right? And don't act like he's a midget, bro. He's 6'1", 191. He is by no means a midget. He's going to be insane. So whether or not I have the, physical abilities, the stats, for basically all intents and purposes, this guy is kind of insane, right? Would I like him to be like, 1 or 2 inches taller? Sure, I would. It would make user picks a little easier to get, crazier diving catch animations. But as you guys saw watching my Rice rebuild, I lost a natty, or a playoff run, excuse me, because of a 5'5" white wide receiver who teabagged my 6'3" safety. So height in this game is kind of arbitrary to me personally, but to each their own. So now showing you the opposite side of the table, the opposite end of the graph. This is a receiver I made that also does a lot of similar things to the corner. However, I just had less tokens to work with to build him, but I built him pretty well. And what I mean by that is, as you can see, is 90 catching, 93 catching traffic, and 99 spec catch. He is 90 plus for all the catching. He's good. He has the elite catching for all 3 categories. Checking out his route running, he's 90 plus for all of them, plus, release. So far, he's all of the stuff you need for catching, all of the stuff you need for route running. And I was sitting there myself and I'm thinking, what is the threshold for juke, for spin, for stiff arm? Because maybe with a little bit of, big brain knowledge up here, I could build that into my receiver free of charge with all my extra tokens. And sure enough, I was correct. So if you go back to the graph, the thresholds for juke move goes as follows. 65, you get tier 1 or tier 3 juke. 78 juke, you get tier 2 juke. And then 73, you get tier 3, tier 1, however you want to word it, the best juke in the game at 90. My receiver gets 91 juke, so he actually gets the best juking animation in the game. Sick. And then I notice after upgrading all my juking, my spin move also hit 90. So if you check out the graph, spin move, the thresholds for that are 65, 79, and 88. He also has the elite spin move animation, which is like, okay, so my receiver has the catching, the route running, and the after the yak, if you will. So if you ever wonder why when you're using a tight end or a running back or, certain receivers, and you try to spin or juke, and they basically move like a morbidly obese elderly person, that's why. They don't have the criteria to have the best animations. Furthermore, because I'm a madman, I was like, what else can I milk out of this build? And if you're looking at the chart, I have enough points for my receiver to upgrade trucking, specifically in the power category, along with stiff arm. So I couldn't get him the elite categories for trucking, strength, stiff arm, stuff like that. But I did get him 78 trucking, which if you check out the graph, 78 trucking is the bare minimum for tier 2, or the middle tier. He has 75 stiff arm as of this very moment, and the stiff arm, the second tier caps at 70 or starts at 78. So theoretically, if I upgrade him one more time during the season, he should have the tier 2 for stiff arm, tier 2 for trucking, tier 1 for juking, and tier 1 for spinning. This receiver is going to be, for all intents and purposes, insane. And again, he's not even a midget. He's 6'1", 215. So you're going to be doing crazy things to people because of this. And then, of course, because this is kind of more of an online thing, he has maxed out speed. You would max out speed. I don't think there'd be much arguments over why I have speed maxed out. IQ, yeah, you would like to max this out, but given the fact most people I know, when you throw to a receiver, you click onto the receiver and then move them yourself. This is kind of irrelevant unless you're letting the AI do everything. So this stat is kind of meaningless in online if you're playing the games, but just that's why it's so low. So for the next thing we're going to cover in this video is quarterbacks. So, most of this time, like most of this point in the game, the number you want is 90. You want 90 pass block, 90 pass block finesse, 90 run block, 90 run block finesse, 90 block shedding, 90 hit power, 90 man, 90 zone, 90, route runnings. The number's been 90. However, quarterbacks are different. If you remember from the chart I've pulled up into the video twice, the caps for that don't cap at 90. It goes 80, 85, 90, and 95. They have an extra threshold, which I think makes sense. They're the most important, position on the field. I think that makes the most sense. So for them, you want to hit 95 stuff. And to classify it, it's not just called the elite threshold. It's the super elite threshold, which, looking at my quarterback at my ECU Dynasty, the one that I love to show on stream, just take down the stats. My guy is 97 throw deep, which puts him 2 over the elite, or the super elite, threshold. He is 99 throw on the run, so he's in the super throw on the run threshold. 99 short, which again, over 95. And 96 throw under pressure, which again is over 95. The only one he's missing, sadly enough, is throw medium. Unfortunately, he's missing the medium super elite, so he's not going to get that. But he is still 90 plus, so he's going to get the super run, just not the super elite one. And that is, what I mean by, generally speaking, for if you're always, when in doubt, just go to 90. Again, there's could be some variant here. The EA, I don't want to say for a fact that it's, so here's the conflicting part I have. So EA has made pretty much every Madden game have the same thresholds with the same animations for at least 6 or 7 years. So it would be really intellectually dishonest for me to assume that the company that's changed virtually nothing in 7 years would magically make college football and magically make the ratings different. So even though these are technically made by different devs, it's the same company with the same nonsense, the same shenanigans. And don't worry, I'll show you how, how the history of this and how long it goes back. But again, the thresholds, I might be wrong, right? This might be 91, right? They might have moved it 1 point, or it might be 89. They might have moved it by 1 point. But generally speaking, if you get to 90 plus, you're fine. Very good. Depending on what, stat you're looking for, that is the best you can get. Which is the reason why some cards in Ultimate Team are worth millions of coins and some cards in Ultimate Team are worth, 30,000 coins. They just don't hit the stats required to do the thing that they need to do. So next, I'm going to show you some videos to kind of more or less summarize what I'm saying. This video is, I believe, 6 years old. It's from Madden 20. My boy Gutfoxx, love his channel. I've been watching his channel for way too damn long. Gutfoxx made a video a long time ago and essentially going over the same thing I'm going over now, and it's more or less the exact same. Ironically enough, this chart I'm going to show you in this video is why I always tell people in my streams to be very careful about position swapping. There's a content creator, I'm not going to say his name, more or less he's telling people, not really just himself, but there's a lot of people telling a lot of people that you got to, recruit, with athletic thumpers and move them to safety and move them to DN. Please just don't. There's stuff in this game, obviously, ratings matter. As you can see from the pie chart, 60% of what happens is based off your stats. But the other 40%, as you can see behind Gutfoxx's head, 17.5% is your weight, and the other 22.5% is your strength. Which this is for like run blocking as the example. But the point I'm trying to make to you is that there's more than just stats. So if you put, as just an example, if you put a running back who's 165 pounds, or a receiver, excuse me, who at a running back who's 165 pounds, he physically can't get the fall forward animation. The reason why is because the fall forward animation, after you get done, running through your opponent, that only triggers at 190 pounds. If you're looking at the graph, upper right corner to the left of my mouse, fall forward min rating is 190 pounds. The other thing you got to have is to have a powerful break tackle animation where your running back or receiver just says, get off of me. You got to have at least 20 pounds over your opponent. That's why I always tell people, be very careful when you're position swapping stuff. Because if you put a very small receiver at running back, yeah, he might be a 95 overall, third down or receiving threat, but he might have a bunch of fumbles. And in Sim, I don't think it matters as much because Sim's more stat dependent. But when you're actually playing the games, if you get kill shot by a linebacker who's like 220, 230, 240 with great hit power, you're going to cough the ball up regardless of what your stats are. You're going to fumble because the linebacker has such an overwhelming weight advantage. So keep that in mind. Same thing with linebackers moving to them to defensive end. If your linebacker is like 210, 215 pounds, do not move him to defensive end. The reason why is because specifically for offensive linemen and how they interact, and don't worry, I'll show you this. Give me a moment. Offensive linemen have an auto win mechanic built into the game if they engage in a block with someone where they are over 100 pounds heavier. So if you're ever wondering why offensive linemen pretty much instantly pancake corners and safeties, that's why. It's not because your safety doesn't possess enough strength or block shed or any of those stats. It's because most corners weigh somewhere between 180 to like 200 pounds. Most tackles and guards in this game are 300 plus. So if you, apply that logic, if you have a very underweight linebacker, let's say he's again 205, 210, 215, somewhere around that ballpark, and you're going against a tackle who's 315 or 318 or 320 pounds, which is not out of the realm of possibility in this game, what's going to happen is when that defensive lineman tries to do something, that lineman's just going to toss him. He's going to ragdoll him across the field. So if you ever wonder why sometimes when you're playing the game, whether you're user rushing or you're doing a nano, you're setting up a blitz, stuff like that, and your linebacker gets accidentally caught on the guard or the center and they just get tossed, that's because you probably have a very small linebacker who just got manhandled. Speaking of the subject, a lot of people recommend moving safeties and corners to linebackers, and I highly advise not doing that. I don't think you should. You could probably guess why I'm going to tell you not to do this. But yes, you can move a corner or a safety to linebacker, and they're going to be an insanely high overall because they have good zone, good man, good catching, stuff like that. But most corners in this game are not even anywhere near like 210 to 215. Most corners in this game are between like 180 and 200. So if you move that guy to linebacker and you get that guy anywhere near the line of scrimmage, he is going to get flattened. He's going to look like an IHOP pancake on the field. So just don't do that. Why I don't advise people moving. Now, if your linebacker is, again, 230, 240, you can go ahead and move him. He won't suffer as much. But if you're moving a guy who's severely underweight, you will suffer for that. You're not going to just get free of charge, I assure you. And if you want to watch these old throwback videos, everything I reference will be linked in the description down below. But as you can see from Gutfoxx is more or less talking about here with this graph, which I'm gonna cover the graphs, don't you worry. This is kind of the exact thing I'm talking about. So there's a hidden secret modifier specifically for weight difference, and that's the modifier. So the larger of a weight gap there is, the larger of a modifier you get, as you can see. So when you have a 40 plus pound advantage over the defender you're hitting, you get an extra 0.2 times chance to fumble or to cause a fumble. So whether you're a safety smearing a running back, or you're a linebacker smearing a quarterback, or you're whoever's hitting whatever, if you do significantly outweigh the opponent, which again for here the example is 40 pounds, that's the maximum amount of overweight you could have. It's not unrealistic to have a 230 or a 235 pound linebacker, and if you move one of those skinny receivers to running back, it's not that hard to have 40, 50, 60, even 80 pounds of weight difference. I was showing that in my stream today. I had a couple receivers who were so small, if I moved them to running back, they would be killed. And it's not even just, again, moving receivers to running back. You can have small, natural running backs, right? If your running back is 200 pounds and he gets hit stick by a linebacker who's 240, the 40-pound weight difference still triggers. You need to be cognitively aware of the people on your field and the people you're going against. Hence why this is mostly an online dynasty thing, not really an offline thing. Yeah, you'll have people like Georgia or Ohio State who just mass print, crazy linebackers every year. But you got to be careful because, again, the 40-pound weight difference applies to every hit stick. So if you cause, let's say, for example, this happens all the time. If you get like a user pick with a safety or a corner and you start running that ball back for a pick six and then you get hit sticked by a lineman and you fumble, there's a good chance the reason why your corner or receiver or safety fumbled is because the lineman outweighed that person by so much that even though the lineman probably has like 40 or 50 hit power, it doesn't matter how much hit power the lineman has. He outweighs the person he hit by so much. That's the problem, right? And that's just one of many interactions that go on. I'm pretty sure weight, again, does not matter in out of, sim. But once when you're doing the game in slow sim or you're physically playing the game, weight and height matter a ton. The next graph and the next thing we're going to cover in this nerdy giga episode, you know what? Just for all the people who are still listening to me yap this far into the video, leave like a condiment emoji down below. Since your boy got the sauce, I want to see the sauce down below. Notice I've been covering certain stats in this video, but not all stats. Not every stat has a cap of 90, right? Things like acceleration, change of direction, agility, strength, speed, throw power have an infinite scale. So for those stats, you don't want to stop at 90. You want to keep going. Some stats you do, some stats you don't. Most stats, 90 cap, but I would say the physical stats, you want to keep going. Now this chart is for Madden 25 going to Madden 26. The data of this is completely irrelevant. I'm just showing you the chart just to show you more or less what I'm talking about. As you can see from the chart, the gap between, example with Madden 25 to Madden 26, the gap between having 60 throw power and 80 throw power is huge. But notice the gap between 80 throw power and 90 throw power is not that, big. And then the gap from 90 to 99 is minuscule. And then you compare that to Madden 25, it kind of reflects the same thing. This graph kind of curved a little more from 0, but you get the general idea. That is what I mean to give you a visual representation of what I'm talking about. What I'm showing you with throw power is more or less every stat in the game. So yeah, you could go for 99 man. You could. But the gap between 99 man and like 90 man is not crazy. It's a concept called diminishing returns, and I feel like this is borderline not really relevant to talk about, but essentially how diminishing returns work, the more you stack something, and like whether it's a buff, a debuff, depending on what game you play, stuff like that, changes the percentile thing of how it affects you. Going back to the example I gave earlier, 10% of 100 is very different than 10% of 1,000, right? Getting to 90 throw power or getting to 90 man or getting to 90 whatever, big curve. But once when you're at 90, less of a difference. Now again, with throw power example, that just keeps infinitely scaling to 99, but essentially you could use this exact same graph for pretty much everything else, right? Getting to 90, what's not man coverage as an example? Getting to 90 throw medium is great. Getting to 95 throw medium is the best. The gap between 95 throw medium and 99 is minuscule. Is there technically a difference? Yes. Will you ever notice it? No, you won't. Here's another graph I'm showing you for Madden 25 and 26. As you can see, it involves weight and winning run blocks, going back to the whole point of what I'm saying about how like weight does matter. As you can see, after a certain point, you kind of hit a soft cap. So in Madden 25, the soft cap was approximately 290 pounds. There was not much of a difference between a 290 plus pound blocker and a 340 pound blocker. But notice there's a substantial difference between a 290 pound blocker and like a 260 pound blocker. Massive difference. Massive difference. So yeah, just be aware there's eventual limit to the curve. Eventually you're going to get diminishing returns and the gap's going to be decimal points and you're going to be like, is it technically helping? Yes, but is it enough to notice? No, it's just there for your mental well-being. So that first video I showed you was from all the wee olden days in Madden 20. This video by DYL, I'm assuming it's pronounced Dill, I believe is for Madden 24. So for a game that came out almost 2 years ago. And more or less the video and he covers, again, I'll have everything linked and credited in the description. I don't own these videos. I don't claim to own these videos, just using them for, experimental / scientific purposes. But he more or less makes the same video I made several years ago. But in his video, it goes in a lot more depth for all of the thresholds and how different interactions handle with each other. So almost everything I would be willing to bet that is in this video also carries forward into CFB 26. Because again, It was like this for Madden 20, then 21, then 22, then 23, and 24, 25, and the newest Madden, Madden 26. It's the same thing. EA has not changed in 7 years. Could they technically start changing now? Sure. I guess they could. I could also technically be struck by lightning and you know, have a train run me over. Does that mean it's probably going to happen? I hope not. But, you know, just because something could happen does not mean it's going to happen, right? So for one last time, I'm going to show you the chart. If you need, screenshot this. If you want a more in-depth breakdown, I will have Dill's breakdown of it in in Madden 24. I will have Gutfoxx's video linked down below as well. So if you want to just go compare how little the game's changed in several years, there you can. But yeah, if you ever curious why certain players are better, why certain teams in online head-to-head are more preferred or what have you, that's why. I can assure you, abilities do factor into this, right? Truth be told, abilities do factor. But there's a lot of people in online Dynasty that's just wasting upgrades, right? I can just already imagine there's some person out there who has a corner with 99 man coverage or 99 zone coverage thinking he is the best lockdown corner in the world. Lo and behold, you could have stopped at 90 and got about the same result. Or I'm sure there's some person out there with a running back with, you know, 96 juke move and he overkilled it by 6 juke move, and you don't need that extra 6. You just wasted tokens that could have been spent elsewhere, especially towards the later half of these upgrades. Most of these final upgrades are like 10, 15, 16, 12, you know, the increments do go up towards the end. So if you can save 30, 40, 50 tokens by being good enough, then go right. Obviously, if you have tokens to burn like me, because I get 200 plus tokens a year, go have fun. But if you're trying to min-max, this is the thing you should know. Again, everything will be linked down below. I appreciate y'all, and let's get to the shoutouts. Huge special shoutouts to all of our amazing people who are in the fam. Appreciate you from the bottom of my heart for all the people who've liked, commented, subbed, and supported me over the last week. And, you know, for all the people who've been here from the OG days to the new days, I appreciate you guys. The fam's ever so growing, and I appreciate y'all. As always, I hope you have a wonderful morning, evening, night, afternoon, or day, depending on whatever time you watch my content in the future. Like, comment, subscribe on YouTube, drop me a follow, or sub on Twitch. I would greatly appreciate that. And if you can, please become a member. Memberships help my channel out a ton, and you get a lot of cool perks and privileges on the channel, early videos, voting in the Discord, and or in general, just voting for future content, future streams, all sorts of stuff. So please, if you can, become a member. I would greatly appreciate that. And yeah, guys, I will see ya when I see ya. Deuces.